He felt his own littleness. He felt his unworthiness. Well, God took care of that and then said, I've got a job for someone to do. And Isaiah said, I'll take it on. But this is typical of the way the Bible looks at things. God is not a subject for bull sessions, but rather someone that you may encounter while you're walking between physics and second-year German. And if you encounter him, the chances are that he has a job for you to do. After this kind of experience, you're no longer interested in arguments about the reality of God, because you would know. Your parents might worry about your mental balance, but you wouldn't bother to argue because you would know. You would be as certain as St. Paul was after the experience on the road to Damascus when he had a vision of the risen Christ and he became an apostle, changed his life. But there is a catch. Even in biblical times, these dramatic experiences were rare. Only a few people had them in the whole Bible. And they kind of came out of the blue. There was no way to have one just because you wanted it. And there's another catch. Such an experience is so private that the person who has it cannot really convey it to another. And Isaiah or a St. Paul is kind of like a young man trying to explain the special charms of a girl that you've never seen. Now, such a girl that's described may actually exist, and she may be all that he says she is. But seeing is believing, and you haven't seen her. All the descriptors in the world won't help you with that. Our service this morning is really not for people who have had an experience like Isaiah's vision or like Paul's, because they don't need it. For most of us, however, we experience God in much more quiet ways. It may just be a steady tug at our conscience, the sort of thing that young Albert Schweitzer felt which gave him no rest until he set up a hospital in the African jungle. It may be a sudden surge of unexpected strength or a strange sense of peace when things seem most hopeless. That's God speaking to you. It may even happen in church, when for the only time in dozens of Sundays, something really happens, and a presence makes itself felt during one of the hymns, or during one of the prayers, or in the midst of a sermon. All of these experiences are glimpses of God. If you wait for the flaming vision like Isaiah, you might wait all your life. Our questions about the existence of God won't be answered that way. To some extent, we have to rely on the experience of others. This is an unpopular thing to say, but it's true. We need each other's stories to help us see the invisible things of God. Let me put it like this. When you first go to a museum of abstract art, every canvas may look like the crazy daubings of a child. You can dismiss this art with a superior snort if you wish. If you're smart, though, you'll talk to some artists and some art critics. Their language may puzzle you, and even still more that strange gleam in their eye as they talk about it. But you will become convinced that they see all kinds of things that you don't. If you're open-minded, you'll think about what they've said, and you'll come back to the museum often to take another look. Maybe their insights can help you train your eyes so that in time you will begin to see something of what they see. The coward's way out is just stay away from the museum. Ignorance always feels better to the ignorant. One thing we must acknowledge, if we are fair, is that the ideals of the church are well known. Core beliefs such as that God is the creator of the universe, for example, and we are made in the image of God in order to care for the world that God loves and to care for each other. that human beings bear a deep spiritual connection both to nature, the gift of God, and to other people, whoever they are. And that our love of God is shown best by our love of one another in practical ways, such as the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do to you. And the social values of honesty, hard work, peacemaking, forgiveness, and generosity. These ideals are so interwoven into our culture that they have provided much of our motives and our sense of direction as a society. Whether people go to church or not, the church is in them. The church has been useful to us all for many generations. We are inheritors of their faith, and we should be thankful. Now, what I've just said about the usefulness of the church is not the main point that I want to make right now. The main point is this: what are you going to do with men like Isaiah, or like St. Paul, or Schweitzer? Are you going to dismiss them as a bunch of self-deceivers and neurotics? I mean, that's a cheap way out. Men like these have so much sanity that most of us seem shallow by comparison. All in all, there does seem at least enough possibility that God does exist to justify some further exploration on your part before you simply conform to the group and write them off because you know better. Maybe God is real. Maybe he's just Santa Claus. All right. But nothing you can learn in algebra class or in physics or in social studies is going to make you certain either that God exists or that he doesn't. The only way you can start to find out for yourself is put yourself in a situation where you will have as good a chance as possible of somehow sensing the reality of God, if there is one. And that's where the church comes into the picture. Everyone, unless they're a complete clod, wants to find as many answers as they can, want to find some kind of guide, cries out for meaning in life. Some useless custom may be cleared away, but you can't build a whole life on what I don't believe. But perhaps since you have doubts, you feel like a hypocrite if you go to church, because you aren't sure you really belong with them. Do you or don't you believe what everybody else seems to believe? Do you have any right to be there unless you're dead certain? I say yes. You may not know it yet, but you've got plenty of company in the church. There's others thinking the same kinds of thoughts, and they aren't all in their teens. They half believe, or they believe in surges. They aren't phonies. But these are men and women who want to be honest with themselves. And if you're honest with yourselves, you are not hypocrites. You come as an honest doubter. You come as an honest seeker. And the church says you are welcome here. You are our kind of people. You belong with us to God through Jesus Christ and his church. And I thank you for listening. Amen.